Hi everyone, welcome to Breeding British Birds episode 7. I'm Oliver and in today's video we're going to introduce you to a new pair of birds that I've just recently made up. I've got a bit of a disaster to share with you as well, and finally we're going to take a look around at all the youngsters that we've bred so far this breeding season and see how they're getting on. So I think we need to start with getting that disaster and that sadness out of the way. There's always little things that happen with birds that are frustrating or annoying and just very inconvenient, but this one's a bit more of a bigger disaster that I wanted to make you guys aware of so we can learn from this situation. So this season we've had two pairs of European linnets, lovely birds, and I was really looking forward to having them and hopefully breeding them. Now we had a pair in this flight cage and a pair in the aluminium flights over there. Now we're specifically talking about the pair that were behind here. The hen had been spent a lot of time building up the nest over the past month, getting it really refined to the finest details to make sure she was happy with it. And I just don't think she was sexually mature enough to produce and successfully breed and lay eggs at this moment in time. But the past week or so she'd been eating a lot more and she'd been spending a lot more time actually sat on the nest, looking like she was going to finally lay the first egg. And that's kind of what happened. I come in about 3 or 4 mornings ago to find her dead on the floor below the nest pan, and she'd got an egg stuck in her reproductive tract. She was clearly egg bound and I was gutted to say the least. It's the first time in about 3 years I've actually had a bird die from being egg bound. I had a hen canary last year go egg bound and I fixed it. This time they beat me to it and I was absolutely gutted. So it does mean we've only got one pair of linnets this season, which is now in the aluminium flight cages. The cockbird's gone outside it into a flight to just probably spend the rest of the breeding season there, but he's a lovely bird and I'll try and get a hen for him maybe next year. But I'm gutted that we've lost her, and I'm just going to have to start supplementing maybe a little bit more calcium. I generally give them a little bit of calcium that goes in their egg food in a crushed eggshell, but it seems that it hasn't done the job this time, and it's a real shame. So I'm just going to have to keep my eye out with the rest of the birds that no one does go egg bound, and I can fix it if they do. However, with that inconvenience now out the way and dealt with, it does mean that we've got a spare double breeder here. So this is 4 foot long, 18 inches high and 18 inches deep. So it's a good sized breeding cage. And I decided that we're going to put together a new hybrid pair. So I got a couple of spare birds that I keep back for a multitude of reasons. And that's exactly what we've got here. We've got a spare red poll hen and a spare native goldfinch cock. So I've put the birds together, 2022 bred native goldfinch, 2021 bred lesser red poll hen. They've been in together for a few weeks, they're familiar with each other, and I'm just hoping that we might get a bit of a bond going. So I've cleaned the cage now, put the nest site in, and fingers crossed we might get some hybrids off them. It is late, of course, to be pairing them up, but it's still May. We've still got probably a good 2 months that we could get something out of them, so I am hopeful that we might just do that, and keep your fingers crossed that we will. Now I do know the goldfinch is in fantastic condition. He's got a fully white beak now, he's been wagging his tail, singing and displaying, so if it goes all right we might have some hybrids, and I might try and run him over a canary hen or two, who knows. On the topic of our mule and hybrid pairs, pretty much every week we've been visiting the Siski mules because they've been busy and something's changed every single week. So the 2 chicks to begin with, the normal and the cinnamon, we saw they jumped the nest about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're now pretty independent. They're feeding themselves quite well. I'm not seeing the mother feeding them anymore. The mother's now looking to go to nest, she's carrying again. So good signs with them, and I will be starting to wean them off now, and I'll go and put them in the young bird room within time for next week's episode. So great news with them. We've reintroduced the brown pastel siskin cockbird with actually both of the hens. Last week we saw the cinnamon hen had hatched 2 chicks. She ended up hatching 4 over the weekend and then didn't feed them. And the only reason I can put that down to is that she's actually an over-year bird, so I'm surprised at that for one. But also is that she has red eyes, and I'm wondering if there's some visual impairment there, which means she can't quite see the chicks' mouths and then is struggling to feed them. I did see her try, so I do think it is just the vision. So what I have done is I've took the chicks away from her. Sadly, 3 of them were too far gone to do anything with, but one of them has joined a family of red polls and is being reared absolutely fantastically. But it is good that we've got a bit of a mix now, so 2 chicks off this pair, a chick off that pair that's being reared, and another chick that's just jumped off that pair as well. So hopefully by next week's episode, we'll be able to have both hens going down over the same siskin cock again, and we'll try something different. I'll talk about you two next time. The linnet mule pair are back down on 4 eggs. I believe 2 of them are full. They've been sat for about a week now. And the twite mule pair over in the far corner, they laid 2 eggs, and I've put both of them under a pair of feeder canaries. They haven't been candled yet as they've been only sat for 4 days, but I'm hopeful, third time lucky, after trimming the vent of the Norwich hen, they'll be full. The red polls have had a super busy week. So for the pair in this far corner, they had 3 chicks. We saw them last episode and we'd rung them last episode. They're doing absolutely brilliant. Their parents are doing a super job of rearing them, and they are bouncing. They're on the edge of the nest site, they're screaming for their mother, and they're just doing really, really well. So I'm hoping within the next 2 days, I think they'll jump the nest, and that is one of my better pairs of red polls up there. So it's great news that we've got something off them already. But of course, we don't count the chickens just yet. We need to get them molted out before we say that we've got a load of young red polls, because that isn't always the case. Now, for the pair behind me here, they had 4 eggs we saw last episode. They hatched last weekend. However, one of them hatched about a day or 2 before the rest of them, which meant that we got some chicks actually had died, sadly. They were sort of trampled in the bottom of the nest site, which was really upsetting, and we got 2 left. And it ended up where the parents favoured the older one feeding it, and we lost the second oldest one. So we've only got 1 chick from that pair, which is a real shame, but they're a good pair. It's a young hen and a young cockbird that have never bred before, so I'm hopeful that if they do go for another round, it will be more successful. But at this moment in time, let's just try and make sure that the 1 red poll chick that they do have in there does make it to maturity and does jump the nest. And with that being said, sometimes they won't only rear 1 chick and they get bored and they'd rather go for another round. So the 1 remaining siskin mule chick that we had has gone under there as well. So the red polls are rearing a siskin mule chick and a red poll chick. Now the siskin mule is slightly larger, but they're doing a great job rearing the 2, so brilliant stuff from them. For the other 6 pairs that haven't yet fully gone to nest, we've got, well, 1 pair are building up here. We've got a pair down here that have just laid a few eggs. So they're getting there, and I just think as it warms up like it has been the past week, that's why I'm in a shirt. It will really bring them on. The light hours are of course increasing, and I think and hope that we'll get some more success out of them soon as they do mature, because a lot of these, especially the hens, are young birds from last breeding season. In last week's episode, we saw the twites had 4 eggs, but they were all clear after being sat for about 10 days, which was quite surprising. The twites generally aren't something you're going to struggle with in fertility. It's more getting them to actually go to nest and breed successfully like that in the first place. So we ended up with 4 clear eggs, and it made us suspicious that is the cockbird actually a cockbird. So I caught him up and vent sexed him, and it had a little bit of a look that it could actually be a hen. It looks not quite like a cockbird should. So I'm going to catch him up and send some DNAs off for him, hoping, fingers crossed, it is a cockbird and he just needs to get fit. But the hen has actually gone back to nest and she's laid the first egg today, so I'm going to not disturb them because I don't want that to impact the chances of them being full if they are in fact a pair. But if we do have 2 hens, we do have a spare cockbird with a Norwich hen that we can run over both of them. So I will keep you updated and I'll let you know in next week's episode. So out in the flights with the greenfinches then, the pair in flight 5, we saw their chicks hatch last episode and they're doing superb. The chicks are being really well fed and the parents are doing a great job. I've rung 2 of the chicks, one of the others is slightly smaller, so I'm going to give it another day before I put the ring on because I think it will come loose and then be pulled off by the parent bird. Now in flight 4, we had the pair that built the freestanding nest in the Christmas tree. However, that nest, although it looked to be fairly stable, the hen decided to redesign it, which involved pulling the bottom out and putting it back on the top, which meant that the eggs fell through. Now the eggs did land actually in the nest site below it, but I'm not sure if they'll be any good, so I'm probably going to give them a miss of putting them under a canary, which is a shame, but I just don't think they're going to be working because they fell about this far. For flight 3, they have built up, they've just not laid, and flight 2 have built up and laid, and she's been sat about 4 days now. So good things from outside. Inside, we've got a chick being reared by canaries, which I've rung, it's doing great. Another chick that's just jumped the nest, a pair that have laid the first egg today in the cage, and another pair on 5 full eggs in the aluminium flight cages. So far, it's starting to pick up with the greenfinches. The canaries have had an absolutely fabulous first round. I don't really have any complaints. Of the 12 pairs that we've got, 10 of them are down and rearing chicks and have been successful. So that's great. And as feeder birds, we want them to be having good seasons. We want them to be able to take birds on and trust them and trust chicks of native birds, that they are going to be fed and not just abandoned by the canaries. So I'm really pleased to report that so far, so good, and I don't really have any complaints. Now, most of them that have completed the first round are going back down for the second round pretty much immediately. So we've got frills on eggs and building, feeders, the crossbreds that are building and feeding. We've got rasers that are sat down on more eggs now, already having built up. We've got new colours back on eggs. So it's been really good, and I just don't really have any complaints with them. There's another 2 pairs that have yet to go down and produce as young that are back on eggs now, so I'm hopeful that this round will be full. If they're not, I am going to put some eggs under them off a different pair that'll be swapped out with natives as well. So maybe the crossbred feeders will go under a pair that haven't produced as something, and then the crossbreds will get something I can rely on them more with, like some greenfinches or some bullfinches or something like that. But so far, really good, and we're going to start to wean them off now, all the chicks that have jumped the nest from the first round. I can use these outdoor external baths that you can hang on the outside of the cage, but because I've seen most of the young actually fully feeding themselves from the egg food pot, I'm not going to bother, and I'm just going to have to keep a close eye on them when I move them into the young bird room. So that's it from me, guys. Episode 7 of Breeding British Birds. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. So if you have, please make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any more future content. If you've enjoyed it today, do smash a like on this video as well, and make sure to follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook, for daily updates and behind the scenes footage of all the birds. Don't forget, the monthly live will be very soon, the first Saturday of each month at 7:30 PM. So I'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Take care.